gets hit, fights for more yardage. Stewart to the mouth of the goal line. Touchdown!
Wow, that's just pure Stewart right there.
That's a big-time run by Jonathan Stewart.
Welcome to Bleav in Carolina Panthers here on Bleav Podcast Networks. Do you believe? Rate and subscribe the show on all major podcast platforms and subscribe to our social media channels on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Video available weekly at youtube.com/@Tobacco Road Sports Radio.
Do you believe?
And welcome into a brand new edition of the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast here on Bleav Podcast Networks. I'm your host, Desmond Johnson, joined by Sports Illustrated Panthers beat writer Schuyler, Callihan, and the Panthers' all-time leading rusher, Jonathan Stewart. Loaded show today. It's the post-draft episode here. We got a lot to cover. Of course, we'll get into the Panthers draft picks. We'll pick out who are our favorite picks that General Manager Dan Morgan actually did over the course of this weekend. Morgan was active, especially at the end of round one, which was exciting because I wasn't expecting to watch it at all and had to scramble at like midnight to go find out what was going on with them getting back into the first round. Our biggest surprises from around the league. Sense or no sense, we'll pick a couple of teams that actually made some draft picks that either made a hell of a lot of sense or made no sense at all.
Atlanta.
Yeah, there's a couple. There's a couple that are going to pop up more than once, probably, from our division. So we'll get to them in a little bit too. The ultimate Bleav in Carolina Panthers 53-man roster is still ongoing. You can vote over at Bleav in Panthers over on X/Twitter. The last poll that just ended was for defensive end. Just like we did Ryan Khalil at center and didn't even put him in the poll, we just pushed them through. We figured Julius Peppers is the first ballot Hall of Famer. We didn't need to put him in the poll. So we're going to go ahead and push him through as well. So we're going to bring up 3 defensive ends. Pep is one of them. You guys voted on the other 2. So we'll put that out as well. And open mailbag. It's always open mailbag here at Bleav in Panthers. You can join in the fun here on youtube.com/@Tobacco Road Sports Radio while we're live. You can hit us on the Facebook Live. You can type it in on Twitter. You guys share this out on your Twitter feeds so we can get more in here to interact with us. And we're just going to have a little fun here real quick, like we do each week. So, fellas, Schuyler, I'm sure this is the part of the year where, like, you can kind of take a deep breath. And how long did you sleep on Monday?
Oh, my gosh. Well, so, like, both nights of the draft, obviously, you're up until really late. And I actually, on the first night, the Panthers were not going to do virtual media, which I thought was kind of odd because – you know, they're not scheduled to make a first-round pick. Even 95% of the people in the media were like, yeah, they're not going to trade up. And so I decided not to go. They had in-person availability. I was like, I'm not going to go down there. I'll be there the next day. I fall asleep around the 22nd, 23rd pick, and I wake back up, and it's like 29. I'm like, all right, here we go. So I'm going to go and start typing up my day 2 mock draft for picks 33, 39, 65. The second I get that final sentence written, boom, trade goes down. I'm like, damn, what are you doing? You're killing me here. But, yeah, it was definitely a restless weekend. I'm still trying to get caught up on that. But I'm an early riser, and it's not by choice. Like, I wake up at 7 o'clock, 7:30 every day, maybe 6:30 on most days. And I don't like it, but that's just how my body works. But, yeah, it's
because you're a go-getter, man.
Right. You're Dave Canales. You can't wait to start your day. Just
yeah, man.
Out of bed and go. You don't need an alarm clock.
Sleep is for suckers.
Stu, what's up with you, man? What's your initial thoughts on during the draft, and then I'll get our bet online reading here. So what's up with you, man? What were your first initial thought Friday night when the Panthers traded up into round 1?
My first initial thought was, hold up, wait a minute. But then you know, because I don't think I was thinking to myself, oh, of course there's, an opportunity here where we draft up. But it makes complete sense. You pick up that option. If I'm a player with a fifth year option, I'm saying thank you. And it just basically buys everybody time. So down the road, and I'm pretty sure when you buy time, you actually, can shave off, some some cap space down the road too at some point if need be with that structure. So yeah, man, I think it was a smart move to trade up because you actually gain in the end game.
I was let me get the bet online reading first, and then I'll go because I was actually a little upset at first when it first happened because I didn't know what the hell was going on because I hadn't been watching the draft. I wasn't even home, and I got home and was watching. I think it was the Lakers playing, and then all of a sudden my phone started blowing up, and I had to flip over and see what was going on. But let me get this read in for Bet Online real quick, and then we'll get into it. Bet Online is your number one source for all your summer sports this season for Major League Baseball, golf, NBA, and the NHL playoffs. All the latest stats, news, and scores available to follow your favorite teams. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. Yeah, I got to admit, I was a little upset.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son.
Because I was like, what are they doing? Like, they're pick 33. Like, we're at pick 32. Like, why are you moving up into the first and have to pay more money for the same guy you could have got at 33? And then, thankfully, Dan Morgan actually explained his pick. Like, he came out and actually explained why they did it. And in his explanation, he was like, we wanted that fifth-year option or whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But then what he did with the picks that he got, or moved around after the fact, I got more faith into what he was doing. By the time we got to Saturday, I'm like, cook, because like he was he came out of this draft with 7 picks. We didn't have 7 going into it, I don't believe. 1 in each round. He regained the second round pick that we lost.
That's the big one.
Trade. That's
Yeah.
And that was just was that the one that allowed somebody moved up in the second? And I can't remember. Which one was that, Schuyler? Do you remember where we got the second round pick from?
The second came from when they traded out of 39.
39, yeah. And they moved up to 46 or whatever it was, and then that's when they picked Jonathan Brooks. And I know, Stu, you wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, because it was ironic the Rams, who were in on the Brian Burns trade situation for the last 2 years, they traded up to get to number 39.
Right. Yeah. And the guy they traded up for too. So they kind of fleeced the Rams a little bit. I mean, when you look at the deal, it's like, okay. So
man, Dan Morgan, boy, y'all do y'all season y'all food?
Yes, I do.
Because Dan Morgan does. Okay.
Yeah, he got a big barrel of Old Bays.
Yeah, Old Bay, whatever you want to call it, lemon pepper. Listen, my man was out there straight seasoning the draft and
seasoning the draft.
I like that.
My take coming from this is basically we legitimately walk away from this draft feeling good about the future.
Yes,
if you have to say anything about drafts previous to this, you're walking away kind of wondering. I'm walking away saying, okay, this lines up. Everything that they set out and said that they were trying to accomplish and, establish throughout the whole entire free agency so far, they've done it.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do they want to do? They want to run the ball. So what do? We'll get 2 hog mogs and Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis. We do a little mix and match at the offensive line. Austin Corbett at center, Icky on the left, Taylor on the right. I mean, from last year, that's an upgrade, fellas.
Yes.
And especially if they continue to stay healthy, we continue to stack the depth at each position, and create a culture of guys that are in that that offensive line room. And establishing a confidence in each depth position that you're a starter. So be ready, establishing that mindset of, hey, next man up mentality. We need you to be able to plug and play. And then you draft a running back of the future. And not just any running back. I mean, the way this guy, Jonathan Brooks, comes off on tape, he reminds me of a mixture of Raheem Mostert and Jamal Charles.
Ooh.
I've seen that Jamal comp float out there.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he can make guys miss, and that's special because not everybody has that wiggle. Not everybody has that, that spark, and you see it on tape. And I was telling Desmond, he reminds me of somebody similar, with his draft situation, which is myself. I coming into 2008, I got drafted, and I was coming off of a surgery that I had that was actually performed by Dr. Anderson, who was on the Panthers staff at the time. And it was one of those things where I was getting drafted to a place, first round draft pick, people questioning me and questioning whether or not they should have drafted a running back and all those types of things. Long story short, it works out because you committed to the culture. You committed to what you are trying to establish. What they were trying to establish was a hard-nosed, smart football team that ran the ball. And we ran the ball really well. And you already had D'Angelo Williams. And so the pressures for me as a running back coming in as a rookie guy that's hurt, it didn't really feel too much pressure. And so the situation here, you have, Sanders, you have Chuba Hubbard. So you have a solid foundation, a solid footing for a young guy to come in and not be rushed to go out there and be immediate. You know what I'm saying? Especially with the draft, the value that we got out of that. I mean, I didn't really think he was going to be there, to be honest.
Yeah.
Hurt, healthy, whatever. I didn't think he was going to be there. The fact that he fell that low is amazing for us, and the fact that we drafted him says that upper management believes and they know that he's going to be ready to play next year. Whenever that is, we won't know. But
then
he's going to play
training camp. Didn't that report come out?
Yeah, he'll be ready, right? So, but ultimately, we don't know. So, but what we do know is that he's a heck of a player, and he can make people miss, and he's a Swiss Army knife. Really, we got two Swiss Army knives in the draft: Xavier Legette and Jonathan Brooks, in my opinion. So I'm excited about those two guys, and I'm excited for him to, get a chance to be a part of a team that believes in him. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Guys getting drafted is essentially that team believes in you when other teams did not. And so you put that in the back, the back stove, the back piece of, back part of the stove in your brain while you're cooking, and you remember that. Remember all them teams that passed you up, that didn't believe in you. And when you play them, you release havoc.
Yep. And that's the chip on the shoulder you take with you into these games. And hell, that drove Tom Brady for 20 years. So, I mean, that's that trick. We got some comments coming in. Marquise Stafford says, keep pounding. Dan Morgan's been cooking since he took over GM. This is the best draft we've had since Marty. I'm really happy in the direction of the team. I can now see the vision. Keep pounding. I do feel the fan base kind of turning back over to optimism after the draft was over, because there wasn't really a lot about it that was bad. Even the stuff that they took some shots on in the later rounds, I couldn't be mad at them. I'm like, these dudes are going to be, depth, special teams, if they make the squad type players. So, yeah, go ahead and take a shot on this guy or that guy or whatever. But the first 4 picks that they made, I was just like, okay, they went in with a specific idea that what they wanted to do. It feels like this whole thing, free agency and the draft, have been set up to help Bryce Young in terms of let's see what he actually is. Because the one question I kept coming back to as I was watching the draft, would I have still took Bryce Young over the quarterbacks in this draft? Would I have took him over Caleb Williams? Would I took him over Jalen Daniels? Would I took him over Drake May? And I'm kind of still, I think I would have. I still would have took him over. I've ran across people who said they would not, that they would take Caleb Williams first. And we can get to, we can go one or two ways here. Let's do it. We can either do sense or no sense, or we can do your favorite Panther pick. Which one you want to start off with here?
Let's start with the Panthers team first.
All right, let's do that. So, Schuyler, you go first. you did mock drafts, you did all kinds of stuff, trying to guess what the Panthers were going to do. Out of the picks that they had, what was your favorite pick?
I mean, honestly, it's not a pick, but picking up that second round draft next year, that's huge. I mean, that I don't think people understand how big that is, especially when the team's still technically in a rebuild situation and you have a big gap from that first pick to the third pick. They could have done some things to maybe get back up into the second round next year, but going into the draft knowing that you have that, that's huge. But from an actual pick standpoint, I mean, it's hard to really not say Leggett, but I'll go somewhere else so it's not too easy. Let me go with Trevin Wallace, linebacker from Kentucky. I think he's someone that really wasn't on my radar, to be honest with you, because I kind of went into the draft thinking if they're going to take a linebacker, it's going to be somewhere in the later rounds, and probably not somebody that's viewed as an earlier mid-round guy. But, man, Trevin Wallace, he can fly all over the place. He's not exactly a Frankie Louvu, but just the energy that he plays with and the physicality that he plays with, fans are going to fall in love with this kid, assuming that he pans out, because he plays the game at 110 miles an hour. And if you flip on the tape, one of the very first few plays, at least on the highlight video I watched, was him about breaking a running back's leg on the very first play that I saw. That thing snapped almost in half.
Oh, I bet Dan Morgan probably just when his mind probably just went. I love this guy.
Mine.
There. He's mine.
To me, I mean, yeah, Trevin Wallace is my guy that I think is kind of the sleeper of this class. I mean, like Shaw Smith Wade, he's a nickel in my opinion. They said they're going to put him everywhere, but I think he's a nickel. The last two guys, Krumedy, if I'm saying that correctly, I apologize if not. And then Michael Barrett, those two guys are going to have an uphill battle. And that's, I mean, you can say that about every 6th or 7th round pick, but they're two guys that are not necessarily like the most athletic, or at least Krumedy's not the most athletic. Barrett's very undersized for a linebacker, so they've got some challenges to work against. I think Jatavian Sanders, and I know I'm going through the whole class here, but Jatavian is the best receiving tight end on this roster already. The biggest part of it is can that translate? Does he know how to get open in the NFL? Because that's two different things. And can he become a better blocker? That's the big area for him. But yeah, that's kind of my quick thoughts on really kind of the whole class. But yeah, Trevin Wallace for me.
I'll go, since Stu already talked about Jonathan Brooks. I'll pick him because I did a couple of radio hits in New Orleans, a couple of places last week before the draft, and then of course my shows and stuff up here in North Carolina. And somewhere towards the end of the week, right before the draft started, I settled on we need to get a running back. Like, we're not talking about it for some reason, and I don't know how attached they are to Miles Sanders. But
you definitely said something about it last week. You were like, you were wanting to, and we shut you down. We was like, he ain't gonna run back. Ain't no running back worth gonna be.
That's what you were like. Do I expect one of these running backs to get taken in the first couple rounds?
I kept projecting them to take one in like the 5th or 6th rounds. And it'd be like a thumper, like Audric Estime was a guy that I thought would fit well because you need that big physical back. But again, if you're taking Jonathan Brooks, that means you're saying he's going to be your future.
That's
like,
exactly.
No disrespect to Chuba Hubbard and what he's done in his progression, or Miles Sanders and what he's done in his career. But you're taking Jonathan Brooks that high, he's going to be your guy here soon.
Yeah,
that's what. And I love when they did it. Because it kind of stuck it to the Cowboys because it was the worst kept secret that the Cowboys wanted Jonathan Brooks.
Jerry, what the hell are you doing, brother? I mean, just leaking out information that you like. I mean, you might as well just post the whole damn board.
Here's the board right here. This is what we want, guys. Here it is, all right here. But pretty much like we all knew Dallas wanted him. Dan moved around the board to get ahead of Dallas, and then takes the number one, pretty much in most circles, the number one rated running back on the board. I was like, oh. They weren't playing. They said they were going to run the ball. They're going to run the ball.
One question I wish I would have asked, and maybe I will if I get the chance to speak to Dan sometime relatively soon, so it's still relevant, is when they traded back, did they know they were trading back to get in position for Jonathan Brooks or a running back, or was it just that was the guy on the board and they wanted to get that extra draft capital? That's something I probably wish I would have asked. But, yeah, I mean, when you're taking a guy that high,
it's got to, you had to have him high on your board.
Yeah.
Like, and I have put in a request for Dan Morgan and for Dave Canales for us here. We'll see if we can grab them the next couple of weeks or so. I went through Bruce, so we'll see if they're going to allow them to come on. Jonathan Brooks, he was 6th in FBS and rushing yards last year. He had 1,139 yards, and he broke or evaded 63 tackles. It's the second most in the FBS at that point. 11 rushes of 20-plus yards. He had 4 touchdowns. The Panthers had 9 total rushes of 20-plus yards last year.
Let's not bring that back up.
So they haven't really had anybody like this since Christian McCaffrey, really. Somebody that's kind of dynamic, can make people miss in space. I agree. Chu has been a great serviceable back. He'll still get runs, but eventually is going to get turned over to Brooks. Was there another pick besides Brooks that you really liked what they did, Stu?
Brooks and Jatavian, I think the tight end, it just, everything about those picks screams what the Carolina Panthers have been preaching all offseason, which is the fundamentals: play catch and run the ball. You know what I'm saying? It's that. And so you have a target like Jatavian, and what I like about that pick is you're stretching the field with a guy in the middle of the field. So now you're putting the linebackers and the safeties in a bind of, hey, what am I supposed to do here? Because they also now have this guy, Jonathan Brooks, that if he catches a ball out of the backfield, like, what am I going to do? Like,
yeah,
you put me in a pickle. So now you get a guy in space on a DB or a slow linebacker that doesn't know what to do. Not slow. A lot of linebackers now are pretty fast, but a slower. A guy on a guy like Jonathan Brooks, he's gonna make guys miss, and that's where you get home run threats. But not even that. How he's affecting the running game, right? You're affecting the running game. You got guys out of the box. You know what I'm saying? And you got Xavier Legette, who's also stretching the field. So you got now we finally have, not saying that Tommy Tremble can't be that guy, but we haven't been utilizing him as such. So we haven't seen him do it. But we've seen Jatavian do it in college, and hopefully, like you said, Schuyler, he figures out how to get open at the in the NFL. That's going to be a problem. Start running routes, start getting that chemistry dialed in with Bryce Young. If I'm any of the offensive players right now, I've already texted Bryce 20 times.
Yeah.
Hey, let's figure out how we can gain this chemistry together. This is Bryce's second year. You're basically all in the same class. Okay. And let's get on the same wavelength, speak the same language, text group text threads, all of those things, man. Like, let's hang out as much as possible.
Dinner. Yeah.
I want to be to the point where if I'm throwing the ball, you can feel me throwing the ball without us looking at each other.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's what I'm excited about. That's what I'm excited to see. These guys come together, and defenses finally having to scratch their heads as far as where am I supposed to draw my eyes? Like, am I going to Xavier, or am I going to Jatavian? Am I going to Deontay Johnson? Am I going to Adam Thielen? I mean, we got some answers right now that I've just spoken out.
It feels weird because I'm not supposed to feel this good, like, at this point, right? Like, because we left the season in despair. We were like, what are they doing? We don't know if this is going to get better. Schuyler, you were like, this might not get better for 4 or 5 years, before they clear all this out. Well, and then one off season, they kind of flipped the roster. Like, they did. They flipped the roster, and they did a really good job, I think, in terms of getting quality guys. The key to me is that they brought in guys that either know Dave Canales or know Evero, and they know the system. So they might not be big name guys, but they've succeeded in these systems in the past. So they know what they're getting. So it's different than last year, where we were just kind of plucking names out of free agency or whatever. And really for the coaching staff too, we were just assembling stuff and just rolling it out. And I made the comparison to the Olympic dream teams after the 96 dream team, where it was literally they're just picking names out of a hat basically and rolling the ball out. And they're like, you're the dream team, you're supposed to win. And like they just rolled them out there and it didn't work after a while. So they had to go back to the whole, like what Stu was saying, being in camp, being around each other for like a year or two, playing all these extra games or whatever, FIBA and all this other stuff to build camaraderie so they could build it back up by 2016 or 2008, I guess is when they really built it back up when Kobe was on there and LeBron and everybody else. But they didn't do that last year. It didn't feel like they were connected. I saw a thing where for voluntary workouts, I think all but 3 players signed have shown up, which is incredible. Eddie Pinheiro, you need to watch out because you were one of the ones that didn't show up, in my opinion. And they brought in some dude that's called the thicker kicker or something like that. Did you? Who was this?
Yeah, Harrison Mervis or Mevis. I can't remember what his name is, but yeah, he's a big boy.
He's a big. Like, is he like 350 after like kicking?
I mean, he could probably line up and play fullback. I mean,
so
he's a pretty big boy.
I don't think he knew that they were going to bring somebody in. And the coaching staff, to me, after this draft was over with and free agency, to me, the number one thing was they told the people that were still on this roster, the vets, look, your job is not safe. Like, don't think your job is safe because you've been here 6 years, 7 years, or whatever. We're going to have competition all over across the board.
New regimes, man. I mean, every year it's what have you done for me lately? But when you get a new regime, you better prove it. You better be out there ready to prove it.
Exactly why we said at the end of last year, right, that guys weren't going to mail it in. Like they had to put good tape together because when this coaching staff and front office came together, that's what they had to go back on.
That was for the ones that were saying we should tank or whatever. But we were like, A, we don't have a reason to tank. We don't have our first round pick. And B, NFL players don't tank.
The unique thing about what the Panthers did in this draft is with their first 2 picks was Xavier and Jonathan. They were guys that had just 1 year of high level production. And I'm kind of curious to see, Stu, what your take is on this. What can be the pros and the cons in taking a guy that's only had 1 major year in college?
You got to look at their situation. I know Xavier Legette out the rip, new offensive coordinator, changed the quarterback's play, right? Made things simpler. I don't know what they did, but the offensive coordinator seemed to be the difference maker for both of those guys and actually making the offense revolve around them instead of whatever the offensive coordinator wants to do. And so you put that explanation into what we've been hearing from the Carolina Panthers. We're going to look at and evaluate every single player and figure out what they do well. And we are going to adjust our offense based off of that. And that's exactly how a good offensive coordinator comes in and implements his scheme and his philosophy. Yeah, the terminology and all that stuff, that's yours. That's what belongs to you as an offensive coordinator and the long-term end game, like what everything should become. But out the gate, how you're going to get there, it all comes and surfaces from what do these guys do well. And last year, the offensive coordinator for South Carolina figured that out. Jonathan Brooks, he had a guy, Bijan Robinson. And so, like, what do you want? You want him to have 1,000? You want him to have 1,500 yards too? Like, they got to be running the ball every play. So, like, so I think that's like obviously something that has to be recognized in all this. But with Jonathan Brooks, Tashard Choice was his running back coach. Tashard Choice is one hell of a coach, fellas. I mean, his energy, his knowledge for the game, his care for the individuals. He's basically raising men that you would want on your roster. And that's the reason why Jerry Jones said, man, that was one of the best interviews I've ever had, because it probably was, because he was raised right. So him coming to the Carolina Panthers, I don't care if he had a half of a good season. Like where he's coming from, it speaks volumes. It speaks volumes from his character. It speaks volume to his work ethic. Both of them, right? These are guys that care about football. Xavier Legette said, "This is all I do. This is football is everything." Like
that's what you said in his accent when you said it. Like,
that's all I do.
Yeah, that's all I do.
Like it's all I do.
We're gonna joke about his accent throughout the entire time he's here. We're gonna call him XL. Don't take it as a diss. Like I enjoy it thoroughly. Yeah, I really enjoy this kid.
But like this is what you're drafting guys that love football, that have something more to offer than just going out there, running up and down the field and catching the football and tackling and blocking and throwing. You're bringing guys in here that say, hey, this right here that's in front of me is all I care about. Period. And you have a guy that's coming off of an injury that's determined and that's committed to getting better. I mean, that type of mindset, I'll take that over anyone. So
it felt like that was a huge key, the kind of players they picked in terms of mentality on the field, character off the field. Like, it seems like they're really thorough about the guys that they did bring in.
I mean, the guys that we talked to, which I think I talked to all of them, but they're just all matured. They seem like way ahead of their years in years past that maybe that necessarily wasn't the case. But this whole group just felt like they were ready to be in the NFL. And they were able to talk to people in the media and not back down from any questions, or they give elaborate answers. To me, that just shows either one, that the guy cares, or two, he's got a great IQ for the game. And I just think that this group is really good in terms of that. But here's what I will say, because I got to get to this, right? No GM has ever batted 1,000 in the draft.
True.
Oh, yeah.
Ever. So we can get all excited. We can hype these guys up. And this is the perfect time to do it because there's no games that are going to be played on this upcoming Sunday.
And I think right now too, what we're doing is we're celebrating.
Yeah.
We're celebrating these young men achieving their dreams.
Absolutely.
We're speaking on behalf of their college and their resume that they've put up so far, and we're speaking upon congratulations to the Panthers staff for working vigorously and hard throughout their offseason, and the scouts that put in the hours and the countless hours of watching film and going to bat for these guys to bring them here. And so this is more of like a, hey, look, celebration, like you did the thing that you're supposed to do within this process. And congratulations to these young guys that have made their dreams come true and changed the lives of their families forever. And so, yeah, absolutely, you got to prove it. And that's why we're not. That's why we're not talking about winners and losers of the draft, because we won't know who the winners and losers of the draft are.
We may not know for a couple of years. We're just now kind of rating Matt Rule's draft classes. So it's I don't know. Willie Smith, who's a super fan of Bleav Panthers, says he's from the hometown of our #1 draft pick, Mullins, South Carolina. So I'm definitely a homer. Another famous person that's from Mullins besides Willie Smith, Kevin Garnett. So there you go. Something in the water down in Mullins.
And I think basically the point that a lot of people need to realize is this team, and I'll say it again. I said it last April. I'll say it again this April. Depth is still an issue.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. Even though you added Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis and you added those guys in the draft, you added some pieces on defense, there are still depth issues across the board on both sides of this team, especially on the offensive line. Like that offensive line, that starting five, oh my gosh, if they stay together through all 17 games, then that's great. But that rarely happens. And a prayer just
went up. A prayer just went up.
Yeah, knock on wood.
And if you start digging into that second and third tier of that line, it's the same guys that were there last year.
That's what happened to us last year, right?
And that's the reason why I said out the gate, these guys got to start working on their mentality of I'm the next man up. Got to have that mentality, and that's got to be the culture on every single level. Because the teams that I played for, where we were good, we had depth with guys that a lot of people might have not really looked at as a true starter. but they came in when they needed to play. They
Did
did their job, and they went. You know what I'm saying? So you got to figure out the professional. You got to have some professionalism with your craft. You not a backup. If you're a backup, you're not a backup.
You're thinking
Let me say that again.
Or a piece of the puzzle.
You are a part of this roster because they believe that you can help them win a Super Bowl. That's the only reason why that you're on that roster. The end game is to win a Super Bowl. You're not a rookie. You're not a backup. You should be presenting yourself every day at that Bank of America Stadium or whatever stadium that you're playing at as a starter. And that's how you prepare. And that is your mentality. So
I get weird looks all the time when I say this, but I mean, I truly believe in it. I don't care about if you have a core of 4 or 5 star players. Just look at Buffalo, for example, over the past few years. If you don't have depth, you're not going to go far. You're not going to win deep into the playoffs. Depth will beat star-laden talent every single day.
I agree. I totally agree. Let's go ahead and move over to you can almost do them both at the same time. Sense or no sense, really the biggest surprise. We joked about it before the show started. Let's just go in on Atlanta together here as a family real quick, because what do you think they were doing? Now I try to make sense of this as we've gone further away from the draft. The Cousins deal is a 4-year deal, right? But from my understanding, it's really more like a 2-year deal, like in terms of where the guaranteed money is. So really after 2026, they could be done with Cousins if they wanted to. But there's problems with that. What if Cousins balled out because he's in the NFC South and all the teams are basically rebuilding? So there's definitely a chance of that happening. And why Penix Jr.? Because if you wait till 2026 to get him on the field, he's going to be like 28 years old. Like, for his first couple of it's not the same thing as Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre, because Aaron Rodgers was still like 24, 25 when he finally got to start playing. And Jordan Love, same way. He's 24, 25, whatever.
He's entering that age.
Yeah, he's just now becoming 24. Michael Penix Jr. is old already. Now, they said that a lot of people said that he throws the best pass in all the quarterbacks in this draft, and that's debatable. I did fall in love with him during the semifinals and the playoffs or whatever at the end of last year. And I thought he was a good player. But to pick him 8th,
trade
overall,
back.
Trade back, yes.
Nobody in the draft from 8 to hell, probably even through the first round was going to take him.
Nope. Nobody. And that's why I was like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing?
Trade back, even if you move back 2, 3, 4 spots, you're getting an extra pick, whether it be 3rd, 2nd, whatever round. I don't understand what they're doing there. And like, I'm not.
I wonder what Arthur Blank was talking to my man's about.
He's like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Either that or Arthur Blank was like, "I want Michael Penix Jr." They're like, "No. Remember we signed Cut. I don't care."
He was probably saying to him, like, "You know what? Just because of that, I'm closing Chick-fil-A on every Monday that we have an event at the stadium."
I really hate it, dude, for Michael, because like,
that's what I was
getting
going.
all this negative attention, and it's not his fault that they picked him there.
He's a top 10 pick.
And again, I'm not somebody that's on the Michael Penix train. I don't. There's some issues that I'm not getting there with. Like, I just think he's a big time project in my opinion. Injury history and all that other stuff. The quirky arm angle.
Kind of like Trey Lance a couple years back.
He's kind of like a left-handed version of Phillip Rivers that's more athletic and has injury issues. That's why I'm not high on him. But
man, if you're really hey, listen, Schuyler, that was so specific, bro.
I was like, hold on now, that sounds pretty good. Like left-handed.
You was on the toilet. You was on the toilet, really just kind of thinking about that.
Like, I'm gonna kill him with this one.
But what I mean by this is like, I don't hate the idea of even Atlanta drafting him. Like, I get they want to plan for the future. That's something that they did not do well the last time when they lost Matt Ryan. But when you're doing it there, it's just foolish.
Why with him? Like, I just and I agree with you. That's where I was going. I feel bad for Michael Penix Jr. because this is going to be one of the greatest days of his life. He's a top 10 draft pick. Nobody had him there. Nobody's talking about the fact that he went in the top 10. They're all talking about how dumb Atlanta is for taking a quarterback.
Could you imagine if someone said that about you? Hey, Des, you just got hired at this new radio station. My goodness, what an idiot they are for hiring.
Right, yeah. That's the headline, all the article. This radio station is stupid. They hired Desmond Johnson when they already had this guy and that guy and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I will say this, and this ain't no defense for the Falcons on this Bleav in Panthers podcast. But I will say this. What if Kirk Cousins doesn't work out?
He's coming back from injury.
He's Achilles, right?
Yeah.
Was it Achilles or ACL? It was Achilles.
So I'm not saying that he doesn't come back from injury. I'm just saying, what if he just doesn't come? Maybe he just lost it. I don't know. Like maybe losing it. Like
what in the world?
So then now the Atlanta Falcons are laughing at everybody, saying "ha ha." But then we go back and say, "Well, you shouldn't have got Cousins in the first place."
Right? You gave him $100 million guaranteed for 2 years.
That's the mixed signal issue. Is like you're going to commit all of this money to put your chips all in the middle of the table and say we're going to go for a Super Bowl, but then you're going to come back and draft another quarterback at number 8 instead of getting him a piece or that defense that could have used arguably the best pass rusher in the draft in either Latu or Dallas Turner.
He's still there. They would offense. Yeah.
You either got to go in on this window.
I'm pissed.
I was about to say he found out when they announced it on TV.
They called him while they were getting ready to pick him. Yeah,
it'd be one thing if this was next year, and if he was 2 years into his contract, going on a second year,
right?
Maybe,
the guarantee money's already been eaten up.
All right. So I showed myself this year and didn't pan out the way we wanted it. Y'all go get another quarterback. Okay, I get it. Like y'all trying to bring somebody in here, maybe try to get me to compete a little bit more. Like I get that. It's part of the nature of the game. But you just paid me, bro.
Yeah, you just paid me. Like the ink ain't even dry.
Like you just paid me like a month and a couple of weeks ago.
The bank yet.
He hasn't even hit the field yet. I don't even know if he's been on the field yet to practice. Like, and you already got the bag, and your employer's like, let's see if you can trade your replacement. Let's see if you can go and trade your replacement while you're in here. So I guess was that the biggest surprise to you guys in the draft?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so that there you go. So
you know what it brought me back.
I know. I got another surprise.
Okay, because this is sense or no sense in terms of around the league.
This makes a lot of sense for the team.
Okay,
but I'm trying to figure it out of how it happened. Xavier freaking Worthy going to the Chiefs.
Dude, to the Chiefs, man.
Look, it makes all the sense in the world for Patty Mahomes. But whoever allowed that, look, somebody got to take the grenade, bro.
It was the Bills. The Bills let them trade up for their pick.
Like it was the Bills, and so the Bills, you play the Chiefs every year. So what? Like in this situation, they knock you out just about every year, right?
Yep.
Was it this year too?
Yep. No. Yeah, in Buffalo.
In Buffalo. And so now you're gonna cover Xavier Worthy. I just want y'all to know, Buffalo Bills, get ready.
Plus, the crazy thing, you just lost Stephon Diggs. You needed Xavier Worthy. What are you doing? Like, you're going to give him to the biggest hurdle you've had to get to the Super Bowl the past 4 years in this window, and you trade with Kansas City to get the fastest dude.
They got Keon Coleman. I like Keon Coleman.
Yeah, but I mean, would you rather have Worthy or Coleman?
Worthy.
I mean, for that offense, for Patrick Mahomes, you got yourself another cheetah, boy. Like the cheetah about to be challenged for the fastest. Yeah,
because Worthy's not just speed. Because they've tried to paint him out like who's the kid that got drafted? John Ross a couple years ago.
Yeah,
they're trying to paint him like him, but he was really just a straight line like runner.
Xavier got that. He got that wiggle. He got that. He got that get gone button. You know that button that you hit.
Don't let him get in front of you.
Do whatever it takes to get out of the way.
Yeah,
that's what he got.
Don't let him get in front of you. Any sense, no sense picks? I'm looking through like the first round in particular because really after that you're kind of like, I was surprised the first 14 picks were all offense.
Yeah, that's first time ever.
That was weird. That was really weird. When I was watching that go down, it's like, that's odd. What's his name?
I got one.
Go ahead.
I got one that's kind of no sense, but I understand it if that makes sense. JJ McCarthy to the Vikings. Like I understand you need a quarterback. You got slinging Sammy Darnold, right? I get it. But when you're sitting there at number what pick were they?
10, yeah.
And I know they had another first-round pick, but you had number 10. I mean, are you really going to take the 5th quarterback off the board in at number 10? Like, I mean, just think about that. You're really hoping at that point that he pans. Like, I've never been a big J.J. McCarthy guy.
Right.
But, I mean, to me, you're passing up on, Bowers. You're passing up on
Fashanu. Two right after.
I mean, Fuaga, Latu, Byron Murphy. I mean, they ended up getting Dallas Turner. But, I mean, they passed up on some time. Even if you don't have that pick and you trade out, maybe say for a future first, like, you can have your pickings of the quarterbacks next year.
I'll tell you what happened.
You're probably going to be in that situation again.
Or Sanders, probably.
I'll tell you what happened. People do desperate things.
Oh, yeah. Things. Especially at that position.
When they're in desperate situations. They let Kirk Cousins go, and they are desperate.
Yeah. Yeah, because they got a problem with Justin Jefferson watching all these wide receivers cash in on these extensions. He's just sitting back like this, just waiting, because he's going to be the last one. And he's going to be the one to get some stupid $200 million contract for a wide receiver. Because Justin Jefferson's probably the best wide receiver in the game right now, right? Would you say him? Tyreek Hill? Probably. So he's just waiting. His extension's coming up. Wide receivers cashed in on deals here over the past couple of days.
Ricky Pearsall.
The last pick of the first or second, the last pick, the wide receiver.
That is the most ideal fit for San
Francisco. Really? What do you think they're doing, the 49ers? What do you think they're doing with Ayuk and Samuel? Because that was kind of the rumor when they drafted him, like, maybe one of these guys are out the door.
They'll keep one of them. I don't know which. My guess is they keep one because they don't want to pay both, and they'll go with Kittle, one of the other guys, and then Pearsall, and then just build it from there. Because I'm telling you, Pearsall is going to be a Pro Bowler. I don't know how soon, but like he is damn good.
We'll take Debo off their hands if they don't want him.
Especially when they got all them folks over there on offense to pay attention to.
Yeah. Come on, man. Come on. We got some South Carolina kids over here. We just drafted Xavier. Look, come on, Debo. Come home, Debo Samuel. I'm gonna put that out there into existence.
Man. I don't know, man. I like Xavier Legette, man. His contact balance is unmatched as far as, I mean, they're very similar because Debo Samuel's contact balance is immaculate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I say contact balance, I mean when people come up there full speed and come at you like a bullet and it don't phase you, like
bounce off you.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Xavier Legette looks like, he kind of reminds me of like Bo Jackson strong, like that country strong, where like he don't lift weights, but he's like just naturally cut. Like he's been out there like lifting bales of hay and like
Desmond, why you gotta be country strong? Why you gotta be country strong?
He's country strong. He is from Mullen, South Carolina. You ain't gonna get more country in South Carolina than that. Like you gotta ask people where it is.
I tell you what, man, that is a good kid, man.
He feels genuine, and that's the thing. He feels genuine.
Just genuinely,
he's enjoying life.
He loves football and just wants to work out and play football. He wants to work on his craft and play football and give back to these kids. He giving back to these kids while he in college. Man, come on now. He already ahead of the game. He is already ahead of the game.
I love it.
Here's a tough one because I know you've kind of brought this up a few times, but which team do you feel like drafts a quarterback again next? Carolina or Chicago?
Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago's where quarterback careers go to die. I should make
listen.
It's literally.
I'm not a Caleb Williams guy.
I'm not either.
All.
I'm not.
I'm not buying it.
I hope that Caleb Williams figures it out because he's got everything there to figure it out. The problem is that there is a lot of pressure. And so, to me, if he figures this out, he's better than what anyone could have imagined.
Oh,
because because of the pressure to succeed, like the pressure alone is just out the window. I mean, you put a vet in that situation, he's like, "Thank you, I'll you put Kirk Cousins in there, he might actually win the Super Bowl.
Hey.
But like just out the like just the immediate impact. But taking a rookie and like, hey, you got all the answers. Choose wisely. Choose wisely.
The problem with Williams is going to be he's up against history more than anything else. Because name 3 successful Chicago Bears quarterbacks in the history of their franchise. Like
Matt Forte.
No quarterbacks.
Yeah, Matt Forte.
He's running Wildcat.
Look to see. Yeah, he was out there running Wildcat. I think he threw a touchdown too. Let me look up.
He might have. Now that you said that, I'm starting to remember some of that.
When I think of Bears quarterbacks, the only ones that even come to mind are the crappy ones of late, like Rex Grossman and
Kyle Orton,
Cutler, and
Jimmy Clausen had a good year.
Jimmy Clausen was there. Rex Grossman took him to a Super Bowl. Well, he didn't take them to the Super Bowl. He was on the bus when they went to the Super Bowl. Yeah. A defense took him to the Super Bowl. It's Jim McMahon. Jim McMahon had and he wasn't even there long. It was like a 3-year, 84, 86 was when McMahon was like peak McMahon with the Adidas headband and the glasses and all that stuff, the 85 Bears, all that good stuff. I guess you could say maybe, didn't Doug Flutie play for the Bears for a little bit? Didn't Jim Harbaugh? Yeah, Jim Harbaugh played for the Bears for a little bit. And then
my biggest thing with Caleb is just like, I get vibes from people, right? And his vibe to me is just like he's got to get humbled a little bit. He needs to come back down to earth, realize that he's not going to step into the NFL and, like Stu said, just light it up. Like he's going to go through the ups and downs. How does he handle that? Because when he was at USC and that adversity started to creep in, he and that team kind of just went to the wayside. So what's going to happen when that happens in the NFL? I don't know. But I don't like the vibes that I'm getting from Caleb. I might be completely wrong. I might look like the complete idiot that got hired to be on this show. But,
hey, but I'll put it this way. I like Jaden Daniels.
Yes, he's the number one quarterback.
Dude, he does some. I saw a reel of him. Somebody put on Twitter that Jalen Daniels has to learn to stop getting hit like a Looney Tunes character once a game. There's this play where he's running and he jumps in the air, and it looks like he's running across 2 dudes, and then all of a sudden, this dude just pops him sideways, and he's thrown in the air.
Talk about another team that has had some issues at quarterback, but I really, really like Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
I didn't see enough of him in college. Commanders. Yo, Washington did pretty good. Free agency wise and in the draft. I thought they did pretty well. I mean, hell, they picked up Louvu on defense, Dan Quinn taking over there. They're going to be in the debate, I guess you could say, going forward. There was some smoke about the Patriots trading out of the 3rd pick, but they ended up going with Drake May anyway. And
that's the one thing I meant to mention earlier, was the other reason why Dan went up is because there were some other teams trying to get number 32, one of which had been reported was New England, who wanted Leggett.
See, and that's after I slept on it, I woke up, I'm like, the only reason you would trade up is if you caught wind that somebody else wanted that pick. And
with Bean, he and Dan Morgan are buddies. As soon as they traded back to 32, it should have registered in my head, hey, that could be a potential scenario where they trade up, because there's obviously some friendship there. And
hey, we found out Cowboys or whoever want to move up to 32, thought we'd give you a heads up, give you a chance to make a deal. And Dan's like, shoot, yeah, let's go. Because we already know who we want. And if they're going to get them right before, because I don't know who we would have picked at 32 if Leggett was not there.
So do we owe a thank you to Panther North?
I think so. I really do. I think they did us a solid. And then they ended up working out for them. Now, I don't know if they did themselves a solid, because they got in the mess to begin with by trading with Kansas City to move to 32. And then they gave Kansas City Xavier Worthy pretty much. So I don't know. I guess the biggest surprise was Penix Jr. But I don't know.
I mean, there's really not one that rivals it.
Yeah, there's Atlanta's doing Atlanta things. So bless you, Atlanta. We hope everything just falls apart.
It wasn't a first round pick too, but I do got to show my love or some love to my guy Zach Frazier.
Dude, I was waiting on him to pull the trigger.
That is if he wasn't coming to Carolina, I'd said for several months he would make the perfect Pittsburgh Steelers center. Like he fits everything to a T.
Pittsburgh did that thing in the draft too.
Yeah, they did.
Oh yeah,
they did.
I'll tell you what, Arizona Cardinals.
They did all right.
They did. I was confused because they got Trent, the Florida State running back. What's his name? Trent Benson. Yeah.
Trey Benson. And that's kind of who I wanted for Carolina, but I'm very happy with the pick they had.
Now you have Connor that has actually come off of a year where he was actually probably one of the more efficient running backs in the league. If I'm not mistaken, like PFF ranking had him like number 4 or something. Mm-hmm. But like I was confused, but maybe they see their situation. They know more of their situation than I know about it. But you just got rid of Hollywood Brown. I would be lighting up that receiver room. Mm-hmm. I know you got
Marv Jr.
Marv Jr., but
that's gonna be interesting.
Keep lighting it up, dog.
Because
you need it. You're gonna need it.
The Panthers ultimate 53-man roster that we're putting together. Well, the fans are putting together. We finished the offense last week or week before last, and defensive voting has started. You vote for it on Twitter /X @Bleav and Panthers. So if you're not following us right now, do us a solid. Go over there, follow us. The polls are usually pinned to the top of the page. You guys are selecting the entire roster. We were at defensive end here as we begin the defense. It's going to be hard, y'all. We took for starters. We figured Julius Peppers ended up being a first ballot Hall of Famer, so there was no reason to put him in this poll. So I just pushed him forward. So Pep got the automatic bid. So Peppers is one of your defensive ends. We decided to take 3, and as you can see by the vote here, Mike Rucker and Charles Johnson are the 2 that ended up winning, just edging out Brian Burns. I had to find another defensive end. I felt kind of way about it. I put Greg Hardy in there, but nobody voted for him. So Rucker and Johnson and Pep are your so it'd be Pep, and one of those 2 would be your starting defensive ends, with the other one coming off the bench, probably Rucker. So Rucker and Pep would probably be there. Defensive tackle is coming up, and then I don't know how I'm going to do linebacker because I guess I'll have the outside and inside or whatever. But we played 3-4.
We're going to have 9 on the field. We're going to have 9 linebackers on the field.
Yeah, everybody from Greg Lloyd to Thomas Davis, like we're just going to put them all out there. So we'll start that here in just a bit as well. Before we get out of here, anything else about the state of the franchise? Oh, I know what I wanted to touch on. A lot of people in the comment section have been asking about Jalen Coker from Holy Cross, the unrestricted or the free agent that we signed after the draft was over that I believe Steve Smith had some comments about beforehand. Any thoughts on him in terms of, are there any undrafted free agents that we've signed that you feel pretty confident can make the 53-man roster? That's probably the best question to ask.
Yeah, I'm glad we caught that because Jalen Coker actually, once I saw Steve Smith talk about him, because I didn't know who he was until I saw the film of Steve basically blessing this man with the check mark. You're verified. You're verified, brother.
Yeah. He did the same thing last year to the receiver Tank Dell. He was like that with Tank Dell last year. So, and that panned out. So maybe he knows what he's talking about.
And Cooper Kupp. And so, but this guy's 6'3". So he's 213. I mean, he's got size, bro. And what I like about it too is he has like a family upbringing of Panther culture. His dad, I think I read something like that. He's like a diehard Panther fan. Oh. So like, this is one of those things where it's like, man, this is a good story. Period. Yeah. And like, you give this guy a chance to, go out there on the field and make his presence known. I mean, that receiver room right now, guys better bring they hard hat because y'all got some work to do. Right now, I know Thielen, Deontay Johnson, Xavier Legette, they safe.
Yeah, they're good. They're good to go. Then you get like Jonathan Mingo. Terrace Marshall is still on the roster.
Terrace Marshall, yeah.
He's still hanging around. He's
yeah.
that cat with 9 lives, man.
And
crazy.
so, the best will survive. That's just the nature of the game. I'm pretty sure all of these guys in that room have the ability to really put their best foot forward, going into this training camp. And hopefully they put on some film that they get picked up somewhere. Because I know there's not everybody can stay. And I definitely think that Jalen Coker has a chance to really put something together. And obviously, if he's not making the roster, the 53, they're going to try to hide him and keep him around for sure.
Yeah, I don't know too much about Coker yet. I have heard similar things to what Stu just said about his potential. But I think the kicker, obviously, that makes sense, especially since he signed, I Bleav, a multi-year deal. Eddie not showing up to the voluntary OT or voluntary workouts.
You think they did that? You think those things were related? Like,
I think it's because they probably know the direction of what Eddie's going to be doing or what they want to do with Eddie. So yeah, I think they probably would have brought in a kicker anyway. You got to have somebody in camp, especially for this part of it where you need a kicker to be able to be there to make everything run correctly. I
just hope Edie wasn't like, oh, I'm good. I don't need to show up. I'm the only kicker on the roster. What they gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, new special teams coordinator. So I don't know.
You ain't safe either, buddy. You ain't safe.
But
Nobody's safe.
The only other guy that
sending a message.
Better get in here.
The only other guy that popped out to me was Willie Drew from Virginia State, a cornerback. The last 2 years, he's had 11 interceptions, 34 passes defended. The kid can play.
That boy ball hawk.
Those hidden gems. That's the thing I want to really rate this draft on when it's all said and done in the end. Who did we get that like nobody was? They weren't on their radar. It might be undrafted or a late round pick that blossoms into something. So really, 5th round onward for me. Can that Chow Smith? How do you say it? Chow Smith? Shaw. Somebody like that who kind of sounded like Jeremy Chin when people were describing him a little bit, to sort of kind of. But then I'm like, Jeremy Chin can get on the field in this defense, so I don't know what place or role he'll have or whatever. So we'll see. But some folks are saying Jaden Crumity. Day One Panthers fan says, "What's good, fellas? Jay Stu, I'm a huge fan. Love the two-headed monster that you and D will. I live 10 minutes from Mullen, South Carolina, and Blenheim, South Carolina. We are true country. I don't know if I said that right. I probably didn't. But
yeah, they probably say it a little bit different there.
Yeah, they probably say a little bit different.
Blenheim.
So
Blenheim.
Right corner from Mullins.
Blenheim.
Mullins.
Blenheim.
Where's Kevin Garnett's accent? Now I'm sitting there thinking about it. Like, how come Kevin Garnett don't got that thick Southern? He talks like he's from he went to high school in Chicago, but
so that's probably what happened.
He just it melted over into like a northern type of thing. Paul says all undrafted rookie deals are 3 years in length per NFL Player Association agreement. So there you go. So they got a 3-year deal. I think we're gonna stop it right there. What's next on the calendar, Schuyler, in terms of the Panther stuff? They're gonna have rookie minicamp here coming up, right?
Very soon, and then they'll have mandatory minicamp, and then that'll close shop up for about a month and a half, and then it'll be back to training camp. Thank God it's not in Spartansburg.
So where are they? It's in Charlotte. Are they doing it at the Panthers facility?
Yeah, that is the plan. Now, again, this could all change. I mean, we've seen how crazy this stuff can be over the last few years, but the plan, I Bleav, is to have it where they have the practice fields at right now. I don't know if they're going to let fans in, because to be honest with you, when I was there last week at practice, I don't know where the hell they're putting fans. Now, that's not to say that they don't have that figured out, and I'm just too uneducated to figure that out. But, yeah, it's going to be in Charlotte.
Because I was wanting to come down, but, yeah, if they're not going to be letting folks in,
the only thing I can see where it could change is if something happens where they don't have enough of the construction done or their timeline's way off and it's just going to be too difficult to have it there. Then they may go back to Spartanburg for another year till it's done. Somebody mentioned the other day, I can't remember who it was. They said they'd be surprised if they just didn't do it at Charlotte, like University of Charlotte.
I was about to say. I mean, and it's crazy. I think their football stadium is Jerry Richardson Stadium, if I'm not mistaken, at UNC Charlotte. So there's a number of ways they could probably go about doing this. And they got plenty of time. We got a couple episodes before we go on our summer break, so we'll be back around for rookie mini camp as well as the mandatory mini camp. There'll be news and notes from there. We still got some signings to go. Stephon Gilmore's still out there. I fully expect him to sign with the Panthers probably in the next hour as soon as we're done with this episode.
My boy out there trying to put that in the universe, ain't he?
I mean, everything's going down. It's always right after we're done.
It'll be next week when we're recording.
It'll just pop in. It's breaking.
Oh wait, look! Oh my God!
Matter of fact, before we even get out of here, let me go check Twitter real quick, make sure none of that's going down.
Or it'll happen when I go to eat. Go get the shower.
You'll be able to play the Olive Garden.
Yeah, what did you do? What did you do when something broke last time? You went to go eat at Applebee's or something?
We went to
Olive Garden.
Yeah, you had Olive
Garden. Go to Olive Garden tonight.
Go to Olive Garden tonight and come out and see Stephon Gilmore sign a 3-year deal. So we'll keep you a track with all of that. Again, the Ultimate Panthers 53-man roster still going on. Go follow us on Twitter at Bleav in Panthers, and then you'll be able to vote on those polls. Share those polls. It's about to get really tough because we're on the defensive side of the ball, and we're about to hit the defensive interior and linebackers outside and inside. So those polls will be up shortly as well. The audio for this is available on the Bleav Podcast Network. Definitely go subscribe there. The video is available at the Tobacco Road Sports Radio YouTube channel. And we'll be back. We'll be back next week with another. Is rookie minicamp next week?
Should be.
Okay, so we'll have that on and on. I don't know exactly what time with the way these practices started moving. We started moving around our morning dates, but probably on Tuesday. We'll probably be back next week and give you some more news and notes from Carolina Panthers. So from Jonathan Stewart, from Schuyler Callihan, I'm Desmond Johnson. You've been watching and listening to the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast here on Bleav Podcast Networks, brought to you by Bet Online. Keep at it.